We've also got the charge cord set. This is a level 1 charge cord set. Comes with the vehicle. What I mean by level 1 is 120 volt. Simply plugs into an outlet in your garage. And this is an industry standard plug that goes into the front fender to charge the high voltage battery. As I indicated earlier, under the hood, that engine generator does not charge the high voltage battery. The only way to charge it is by plugging into the grid. And we do that on purpose because we don't want to be burning gas to charge. We want to charge by using the grid.
And I think that's one good thing to point out on that front fender. That's an area a lot of times where rescuers will peel that fender back, and there is a high voltage cable running back up into the under the hood from there.
There is.
That's where it's going to be plugged in somebody's garage.
That's right.
If there was an issue with, let's say, a car fire or some of those type of things.
Right. Yeah. And in a car fire situation, obviously the first thing to do is unplug the car. Yep. If you can unplug it here, or kill the power to the structure. But one point to make there, Kevin, was yeah, there's high voltage where this plugs in. But remember, if this is not plugged into the car, those high voltage lines are not charged.
They are not, okay.
Because the only time they would be charged is when you have power flowing into the car over to the onboard charger. And
if it's sitting out in a parking lot, if we were to peel back that fender, and you know that was the big thing we were telling people: don't cut the orange wires, don't cut the orange wires, but realize that there's a mechanism put in place so that the power isn't back feeding that plug.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. So you can generally, I know that's a common access point or cut location. We're still saying stay away from orange cabling, but if you see orange cabling, don't become alarmed. That's for the charge port, and as long as you're unplugged, those wires aren't charged in that particular location. Okay. Now we have a level 2 charge system available, same plug. Okay, but it's the 240 system that you have your electric dryers in your house. If you have access to that, you can have a level 2 charge cord set installed in your garage, and it charges the vehicle in half the time. From a fully depleted battery, it's fully down about 3 to 4 hours to charge a battery, versus this takes 8 to 10 hours.
Now that battery that we're seeing the mock-up of, that's about 400 pounds.
400
and
pounds.
it actually comes in from underneath the vehicle when they actually change that out.
It's on a steel tray that's T-shaped. This is down the center of the vehicle. This is front in orientation. This is across underneath the back seats. So you got driver, passenger, rear, left rear, and right rear. And then, of course, your master disconnect, your manual service disconnect. It's in between the front seats. Accessible from the center console.
Right. And I'm going to pan over here just for a second. In that center console, the lid is off. There's actually a tray that you lift out of that to give you access to that. So, and I think we're going to get a console held up here in front to give you an idea that rides on top of in the car. Yep.
Most center consoles are hinged. They have storage in them. People put their junk. This comes out. No tools required. Unsnaps. And in there, you'll see the manual service disconnect. Just reach in, pull it out. And that will shut down high voltage from the battery, but doesn't disconnect your 12-volt airbag controlled system. So you have to pull the airbag fuse if you're going to pull this. So
or cut the wires here in the back. If you want to be redundant. Yep. That tab, can you show us on that disconnect? I know we say just pull it out, but it does require a little bit of to squeeze in so that somebody's kid can't take it out while they're.
That's right. It's got, you have to push in, and then you have to pull up. Okay. Yep. This locks it in place, prevents it from vibrating loose, and also makes it difficult for kids in the back seat to pull it out while mom's driving.
Okay. Now you were talking about. I know we've talked about in the past about. The power cables running to the front of the vehicle, the 12 volt is coming through, and we've cut that in the back at the sticker. But also up in there, there's a fuse that we could.
There's no fuse underneath. An alternative.
Okay.
If this area is crushed.
Okay.
I mean, where the 12 volt is, and maybe even where this
or the back's driven in.
There's a peel and peak alternative. Cut that cable, that red heavy cable, is actually underneath this trim here. peel that back, and if you can get cutters around that, you're doing the same thing as cutting it back there.
So that's running back through there. It's coming down along the rocker panel and
That's
running
right.
up to the front. So that is, if we get the back door open, it is a workaround.
That's right. And remember, this is red, which is low voltage.
And it's 12 volt.
And it's 12 volt. That's right. Yeah. So you're cutting low voltage like we do today for airbag systems.
Yeah, that part's not changing. I think that's what we need to get out to folks is that, the 12 volt's still firing all the airbag systems, a lot of the safety stuff, and that we still, just because it's an electric car doesn't mean that we forget the basics and we continue to do it.
That's right.
I think what's interesting, give you a chance to see some of the airbag components and kind of explain the airbags that in there. There's quite a few in this vehicle.
There's 8 airbags in this vehicle, and we can go through them. 2 frontal airbags. Okay, got the driver and the passenger. Those 2 airbags have dual stage each. So if you see a bag that's out on the steering wheel or on the passenger side, that doesn't necessarily mean that all the propellant is gone, and you need to proceed with caution by shutting down, either cutting or disconnecting the 12 volt battery or some of your alternative techniques, or pulling the airbag fuse to assure yourselves that all the propellant is safe.
Now, what's the rundown time on that? From the time we cut the battery?
1 minute.
1 minute?
1 minute
60 seconds?
is your bleed down time for your capacitors. Question? Okay.
What's the capacitor for?
Yeah. Now, that's 2 airbags. 2 more airbags are the 2 knee airbags in the front
They're
seat
coming
positions.
out from below the seat?
They're coming out from below
Below the
the
dash.
instrument panel.
All right.
So that's 4.
Okay.
Those are single stage.
Okay.
We've got the side impact, we call these the thorax bags, that are deploying out of the seats.
Out of the side of the seats.
Front seats.
Okay.
Okay, that's 6.
Okay.
And then we have what we call the side curtain airbags that are stored gas inflators that blow front and rear seat across the entire side of the vehicle in order to protect head and potential ejection mitigation.
And I think one of the things, we typically do a cut back on that seat post. There's a pretty big actuator that's setting that airbag off. It definitely is going to limit where we can cut back there. We could definitely get the roof off. We've done it, so we know that it's doable, but you're definitely going to want to strip that plastic back and take a good look at everything. As
Find out exactly where that's at to keep your cutters away from that cylinder, because if it's not deployed, that cylinder can have thousands of PSI, and you don't want to be cutting that with your cutters.
Have you guys cut it to test it? Just
Nope.
To see what it kind of impact?
We don't need to know. I mean, we don't. If you open something up with that kind of pressure,
It's going to be bad. How much is in there?
I've heard numbers as high as 5,000 PSI. Yeah, it's pretty high.
So that's the off switch button here on the console. That's going to be illuminated when it's on.
Yep.
As well as the screen up above
This screen and this screen.
and the screen over the
Yeah,
window.
those will light up when the vehicle is on. This will light up blue, as steady blue. It blinks blue when you open the door, so you can find it when it's dark. But once the vehicle's on, that's a steady blue light.
As well as the displays here also lit up.
That's right.
I know that was something that it was interesting. I mean, you definitely know it's on.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know it's
you're
on.
Seeing,
And then, of course, if you really want to check by just opening the hood, just the latch, you don't even have to open the hood, but just unlatch it with this lever will automatically turn on that 4-cylinder engine if the vehicle's on. So if it doesn't start up and you've done all of the things we just described, you know that.
so if it's parked in my garage and it's not on, and I don't know, my kid decides to pop the hood on it, that motor's not going to come on. That's only when the high voltage system is engaged.
When the vehicle is basically idling, if you will. I mean,
And that's one of the things I know when you guys drove that in Traverse City, it is so quiet that it would be easy to, pull into your garage and you're messing around with your kids and
You have
stuff.
no idea it's
that
on.
you could step out of this vehicle and it's kind of like a golf cart. As long as you didn't hit the pedals, this isn't going to move. I know that's probably not the engineering model you want me to use a golf cart, but the reality is that it's there. It's just a matter of you pushing the pedals when it is on.
being aware that the vehicle is on, there's indicators that the vehicle is electrically on.
Do you want to show a close-up of that?
Yeah, I'm going to get in there. Yep.
See how tight that cover has to be?
Also, I'm going to go around to the other side. I'm going to shoot back to where they did cut to show you. Yeah, to show. I know when we made that first cut back there in June, I was surprised even looking at it. I mean, there isn't a lot of room because when you're looking at this from the side, you got to realize that that actuator is coming all the way up into here, which a lot of times we try to cut it back here. You got to get ahead of that, and that's a pretty good size cut right there.
Show your hand in there with the film.
Okay, so to give you an idea, I'm looking across, that actuator is coming about this far. So when you look at this in the grand scheme of things up on top here, see where that little window comes down, you've got to be forward of my hand when you make that cut. Anything where my hand is, yep, somewhere in there. Okay. Which traditionally we'd like to try to slide back and get as much as we can.
Right.
But that's definitely not going to be the case. So.